Everybody, Web3 Sales Gym, welcome Glenn. We have an amazing guest today. Today we're going to speak about 5 different questions to Glenn from Alchemy. Glenn, if anything that you want to say before the start of the show, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Nikolai. Yeah, appreciate you being here and also just creating this channel and all the content. I think it's much needed kind of community and content for Web3 sales professionals.
Thank you so much, especially like the topic, the one that you suggested. I really like that one because we never really touched that. So the first question to you would be, what is the thought process of shifting from Web2 career to a Web3 career? Like, why do you do this? Why people do this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. So I've been involved in, working in sales for the past 8 years, and I've been involved in crypto just as an enthusiast on the side for almost 10 years. So, you go far along enough in your career and you find yourself maybe doing something that you're not 100% passionate about. At least in my case, I found that I would, put in a lot of hours at work and then kind of come home and do all my crypto stuff. And it almost felt like, living like 2 separate identities. So for me, it was really cool because I'm really passionate about sales and business development, also about crypto and blockchain. And this was really an opportunity to bring both of those passions together so that it almost doesn't even feel like work when I show up to work every day.
Cool. Like majority of people that I've been speaking with, they also share the same story. Like they have been working their regular 9 to 5, but they always had this passion, for something outside of their work, which was Web3.
Yeah.
And, just combining these 2 worlds was a win-win situation for them. Correct?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I would say it can be hard to find the right opportunity though, right? Because a lot of like Web3 or crypto teams don't necessarily have the need for traditional salespeople. So I think that's like the trick is figuring out how you can apply your existing skill set to, a business within the Web3 space.
True. Like one challenge is finding the company that you can go and work with and you would be happy selling to. But the second challenge is how do you persuade this company that you know the stuff, that you know the game, that you would be that you would be able to go in and implement the stuff that you have already been working with in the new environment. How do you go about this? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so it's something that we did here at Alchemy as part of like the onboarding process that I think was really valuable was we had to pick like an ideal kind of customer. And then we had to actually give like a client presentation, but to the rest of the sales team. And, having worked in Web3 infrastructure yourself, like it's a very complex landscape, like understanding all the various like APIs and things like that and understanding which one is the best to recommend. So that was a really cool experience because it kind of put us to the test in the first couple of weeks of working on the sales team of how do we actually like apply all this stuff that we're learning about and all the various use cases to a potential customer example. So I think, long story short, one of the coolest things about Web3 is that you can get very hands-on and actually like use the technology. It's not like a lot of other SaaS applications where it's gated with like a demo or a sign-up page or something like that. So it's very easy for you to get involved, test stuff out, even if you're not 100% technical. And that's the best way to get started is just use the various dApps or solutions.
True. I've seen a great evolution of the recruiting processes over the last 2 years when a lot of great companies, they have been implementing this kind of testing and feeling for the person, what kind of salesperson you are, even in recruiting process. So like demos, pitches, like I even had a case where the company would tell you, hey, go find a client and then bring that client to a demo and then do a demo. And this was a part of the recruiting process. So there's a lot of stuff that they're doing right now.
Yep. And that's something that we do as well. And I think it really helps kind of weed out the people who are just applying to a bunch of jobs versus the ones who are truly passionate about, working at a particular company. Okay.
Then let's imagine the scenario that this person that just got the new job in Web3, what kind of challenges do you envision they would have just in the beginning, or what kind of challenges you had like that you can think are relatable to others?
Yeah. So for me, like, I would say actually for the average person who maybe hasn't been deeply involved in Web3 for a long time, it's just like learning about how people communicate. The way that you talk to one another is very casual and informal. It uses like, I would almost say, some insider knowledge of like memes and terminology and phrases and things like that, where to someone who's an outsider, that might seem like really foreign and almost like a whole other thing that you have to study, right? You know, the way that you communicate to people in a traditional like B2B software as a service sales environment is almost like too uptight and formal, I would say, for, you know, Web3 sales. You have to get used to just having casual conversations with people, not like immediately jumping in and talking about like your product or service, but, you know, authentically building a connection by participating in the same community and then hopefully sharing something of value when the time is right. For me personally, like, because I was already used to like engaging in these communities and speaking in this way with people, the biggest challenge for me was getting past my own like I guess like requirement to use like a sales process or tools. It's still really important, but when you're doing outreach in tools like Telegram or Twitter or Discord or things like this, it's impossible to like track every single activity, create measurable reports and dashboards on a lot of the things that we tend to love, I think, as sales leaders, to create like predictability in your sales process. So the biggest challenge for me was finding the happy medium there in, you know, to what extent should we be trying to like log in, track all this activity, and to what extent can that go by the wayside? And shameless plug for your new company and what you do, because you have creative solutions in this space.
Exactly, yeah. And this was not scripted, yeah, guys. So if you're looking for the Telegram automation or reporting, just go click the link in the below. Yeah, but that's good. I really see what you're saying, because sometimes when in Web3, when I'm speaking with different people, whether it will be prospect or just, you know, general networking with others, a lot of times you don't have just one avenue, like selling your product or talking about your services or something like that. You often have multiple layers of the conversation. You can speak about strictly business to business relation. You can speak about, you know, going on different events. You can speak about doing something on the side. You can speak even about trading, like maybe you're investing in the same coin or the token, and you are like, there's so many different levels of the conversation and for the communication. So I think that it's like a big hit for people that we're just used, you know, to go one way, like we are selling you product and that's it, that like that kind of relationship. So we are like more granular. There's more deepness in this kind of talking.
Totally. Yeah. And like for me personally, I oftentimes will try to research and see like what NFTs the founders have hold. And then if I also own any of those same NFTs from that project, that's like a perfect kind of entry point, right? I might like enter their group chat or Telegram and just like, you know, share like a compliment about like NFTs that we both own or something like that. And I find that that's a really kind of natural way to break the ice and a good way to build rapport with people, because you're invested kind of in participating in the same community.
True. That's a very, very good hack. What do you think are misconceptions of people that never worked in Web3 and then they went into Web3 and then, like, because sometimes the grass is really greener. Anything specifically that you have identified for yourself, or you see others people having some kind of expectations and then failing with them?
Yeah. I would say two main kind of misconceptions. One, I would say, is like the maybe external misconception that people still unfortunately view like crypto or Web3 as being kind of a scammy industry, just because we see all these large like headlines about hacks and exploits and things like that. I know that was like some of the initial reaction I got from like maybe peers that I had worked with before when they saw that I was going into Web3, and I had to kind of address some of that. And like, there's still a lot of education that has to, you know, go into like, I think teaching people what the real world applications are and the more serious applications of blockchain technology, to be able to get past that initial reaction that, you know, people who aren't as active in these communities might have when they see that. So I think that's one. And then like another hurdle, you know, or misconception that people might have going into Web3 sales is that it's going to be like easy, or there's not going to be any, you know, measurement or holding accountable to goals or stuff like that. I think it's very much still the case. And there's a very big learning curve that has to happen. Just because you're active as like a trader or, you know, participating as a retail investor or something like that, doesn't mean that you're going to know everything about like selling blockchain infrastructure, for example. So you have to be prepared to really dive in, try to get more technical, and like learn more about what your ICP is actually doing, right? So if you're selling to developers, learning about what they're actually doing, like, you know, how they author smart contracts, how they audit blockchain applications, whatever it might be, so that you can be more relatable in those conversations.
Exactly. Like without understanding, you are not going far because
Correct.
people, you won't be able to relate. Okay. Last question before we dive into a quick Blitz section. What role do you think Web3 will play in the future of work? Because we work in a different way than even people in IT work, and also in the economy overall. Where do you think we're heading?
Yeah. So I think like the thing that I'm most excited about is kind of like the ability of Web3 to unlock value for creators and really anybody, like let's say like the gig economy, right? This new paradigm where basically anybody can contribute value to society and have a way that they can monetize that without having to go through like a centralized entity or something like that.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'm most personally excited about when it comes to both future of work and the global economy, right? Let's say you're someone who is like an aspiring writer or musician or filmmaker or something like that. There's a future through Web3 technologies where you'll be able to tap into a network of other, you know, experts to help you build an idea together, share that idea out, you know, distribute it out to an audience, and then get compensated for that all through blockchain technologies. And I think what really started opening my eyes to this is seeing some of the major record labels start looking at like decentralized processes to put together like a record contract, looking at some of Alchemy's own customers also in the music and entertainment space, looking at ways to monetize creators in a decentralized way. I think this is going to be really disruptive for a lot of audiences. And I think Web3 is going to have this almost YouTube moment where like when YouTube was early, it opened up like monetization paths for tons of creators around the world. I think the same thing will happen now with decentralized technologies across the board.
Yeah, that's a very cool view on that, because I feel like we're gonna open up this full creative potential that right now is locked or is going routed through a few centralized entities, and then once it's opened up, it's gonna be so much better for these people to go and basically understand that they can go and live their normal life and do the stuff that they love, and then actually get paid for this, because this is going to be good for everybody, and society will value their work more than it values right now. And even if they do, they still don't get the full fraction of that value transferred to them, because they kind of pay for the opportunity to be seen, right?
Right.
Yeah. And a good friend of mine, his name is Harshit, and he works at onramp.money. And he was featured on the Consensus magazine because he is a DJ and he's doing a lot of music, and he's, you know, doing this together with being a BD in Web3. So like if you're able to match, then yeah, this is amazing. He also has a brother, and they are both doing this like together. They're musicians and BDs in Web3. So like, great guys.
Love that.
Perfect, guys. And after a while, we're going to the Blitz questions. So the first Blitz question to Glenn would be, which you prefer the most, sales, BD, or partnerships?
I would say sales.
Same for me. Best Web3 event that you ever attended?
Best Web3 event that I ever attended was NFT NYC in 2022, because I think the vibes were still like very good. It was before like all the markets kind of like started really going down. There were a ton of events, and I remember one of them, I got one of my NFTs like printed on a sign at a party, which was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I also remember 2022 just entered the market, and there was ETH Amsterdam event. It was absolutely amazing. I love that. That's what I remember still. Will AI replace sales jobs?
So AI will not replace sales jobs, but it will mean that sales teams can be a lot more smaller, I think, and more nimble, because while they're using AI tools, it's going to increase the productivity of each individual sales rep. So it won't replace salespeople. If anything, I think AI is going to push sales to be more focused on like in-person relationships and networking.
Cool answer. One sentence advice to anybody that wants to start in BD in Web3 or sales right now.
learn the products that you're talking about, right? And that's not only your own product that you're selling, it's also just like learn your customers, dApps. That's the cool part about Web3 is you can actually play around with the technology. It's typically not gated by like a forum or a demo or something like that. Start playing around on chain, and like that's the best way, even if you're not super technical, to learn how these things work, and then you'll instantly build more rapport with the customers and prospects that you talk to.
Do your homework, in other words.
Yes.
Perfect. And do you think that the Wild West in Web3 is over?
It depends on how you define the term Wild West, I think. If you're talking about Wild West in terms of like lack of any regulations and stuff like that, I think that time is definitely coming to a close, which I think is much needed in the space, because in order for our space to be taken seriously, it has to be held accountable just to, basic regulations that other financial markets are. So I think that part is positive, that it's becoming less Wild West. I think if you talk about just in terms of speed of innovation, like new ideas, new types of protocols, like new tokenomics coming out, that's never going to change, because just like if you look in traditional Web2 technology, after the first internet bubble and boom in the 1990s, that never stopped like the pace of innovation of new ideas. And I think it's very much the same in Web3.
Amazing. Glenn, thank you so much for the conversation and for the insights. I will leave all your links below. So guys, if you want to get connected with Glenn or with what they do or what kind of content Glenn posts on LinkedIn, everything is there. And it was great pleasure, like really great pleasure to have you on the episode.
Likewise. Thanks, Nikolai. Appreciate it.
Thank you.